Hello and welcome to this week's Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Furrow. I'm Karen McCarthy. Coming up, bringing cyberspace to the back blocks, the Rural Broadband Initiative. Is it going far enough? Is it going to be fast enough? Much has been promised to give the country a boost online, but what's been delivered? Safety on the school run. Rural women are pushing police to roll out a national campaign targeting drivers who speed past school buses. And the search is on for New Zealand's first Dairy Woman of the Year, celebrating those making a real difference in the industry, on the farm and in their communities. With me in the studio this week is Sarah Speight, CEO of the Dairy Women's Network. Thanks for coming in. And Noeline Holt from the Rural Women's Network, Executive Officer. I think that's right. Thanks for coming. The Minister of Information and Communications Technology, Amy Adams, last week opened the first cell tower under the much-lauded and eagerly awaited Rural Broadband Initiative, a 6-year, $300 million project. The first cell site to be officially and symbolically switched on was at Eureka between Hamilton and Morrinsville. Other locations in the first wave of RBI cell sites include Puketaha, also in the Waikato, Kumeu and Waitakere in West Auckland, and Motueka in Tasman Bay. We've had the first cell site switched on then. Yes. It's been a long time coming.
Yes.
Is it going far enough? Is it going to be fast enough?
I think it will be fast enough. It will meet needs, definitely. However, we've got that last mile concern. Those are the people who are going to never get onto the fast high-speed broadband. They're going to be stuck with satellite, and there's some limitations around satellite, including cost and the data caps. So we would really like to do something for those people there. We've asked the government, we put out a white paper about, look, there's a solution here. It's a low-ticket item, and I think that they really could do something about that, just to create a bit of equity.
Do country folk feel they've been on the back burner too long when it comes to this? Sarah, you work with farmers all over the country.
Yes, I mean, I have women involved in multi-million-dollar businesses that can't open their emails because it's too slow. It really is holding back the pace of change on farms. You know, a lot of our changes in order to drive productivity and keep our footprint to the size it is now are going to rely on technology. So we're going to need to roll out this RBI. We're very supportive of the initiative, and all credit to the national government for pushing it ahead. And we really look forward to seeing great inroads in the next couple of years so that people can get better connected on farm with technology and with each other.
When in a remote, isolated area, I guess that reliance on fast communications technology too is vital and can be crucial, a lifeline in some cases.
Oh yes, it definitely can be, and in particular around cell phones. That could be the difference between a life or not in an accident, and there's still so many areas without cell phone coverage. So while the RBI is being rolled out there is the issue of cell phone coverage, and I think that Vodafone are working on that there, getting people connected.
It is quite astonishing, such a sort of tech-savvy, tech-embracing country such as New Zealand. But I guess, to be fair, we have those geographical difficulties out mountains. It must be hard reaching everybody.
We are a long, thin country and quite a steep country as well. So there is some creative solutions around, and we're working very hard on those. And
Sarah, you say there's a great reliance on the farms in the rural sector on online. It's not as if they're stuck in the dark ages. They want this technology and they need it.
Oh, I mean, most of our 3,200 members are connected via internet. Most of them prefer to use it as a source of communication. But it is difficult when you go to load up a page and then you've got to go and make a cup of coffee and then come back, because otherwise you'd be sitting looking at a blank screen for 5 minutes. I mean, it is incredibly frustrating, but there's a real sense of excitement about the potential that the RBI can bring. And the other thing, as you said, Noeline, is the cell towers. I mean, in the last 5 years, access to cell coverage in the rural areas has been much improved. Certainly the dairying areas anyway. I'm sure, Noeline, a lot of your country is still uncovered.
Yes, it is.
But that's been great in terms of, so now we have smartphones, and a lot of men in particular we're finding are moving straight to a smartphone rather than use a PC. They'll access things direct off the smartphone because they can get coverage from the cell towers.
And how much business is conducted online on the farm? Because perhaps the perception is not very much.
No, a lot. I mean, most of our women will do all their banking online. They'll do all their animal herd records online. All their information comes back from herd testing and the dairy company via online services. So yeah, very much, very, very, very reliant on it.
Noeline, you said to me before we came into the studio, bizarrely, there is in fact some, if not resistance, reluctance from some people to this next level of high-speed internet access, in that it's such a brave new world that a lot of people are just not used to having this fast broadband, that it's a little intimidating or a bit much.
Yes, it is, because for people in towns and cities there, they've grown up with it. They took it on when it first came around, and they're stepping into it at that high level of technology, and I can understand how that feels. And so, yes, there has been some resistance, not necessarily from our older people there, they're usually the more keen ones. However, we've got a program there that we're looking into that's based in UK that encourages people to come online and participate, because for us it's all about social inclusion. I think that's really important.
You've got Rural Women's Conference coming up in a couple of months. You've got a new online business category, is that right? That's
right, yes. We have introduced the online category where 80% of a business is conducted online, because we realise there that that's where so many of our rural people are going to be starting up their businesses, and many already have. And it's part of our Enterprising Rural Woman Award, which we've been running for about 4 years now, and that brings in women with businesses and small businesses, and it's been such a variety of businesses that people write, and people are so creative out there in rural areas, just really great imaginations. Sarah, you have your own conference coming up in March, I think, is that right?
Yes, we do, in Rotorua, the 21st and 22nd of March. We're very much looking forward to that. We've got almost 300 registrations already. We've launched this year the Dairy Woman of the Year Award. One of our core strategic principles is around developing leadership in women, and we thought it was really important to have someone that women can aspire to. So what we've been looking for, and we've called for nominations, for someone who's active in her community, active in her own business, but is also making a contribution to the industry. And we've had 23 nominations, and all of those nominations are of women who will be very well deserving of that award. The exciting part about that award, though, is that Fonterra's come on board and sponsored a prize, which is attendance at the Global Women in Leadership course, highly sought after, both in the corporate sector, not well known in agribusiness, but it's probably the pinnacle of leadership courses for women available in New Zealand. So that scholarship's worth $25,000, and we're very grateful to Fonterra for their support on that one.
How big is the Dairy Women's Network across New Zealand? What's your membership?
We've got 3,200 members. So it's growing quite rapidly, and as these online services get better, I think we'll find our membership will grow even further.
And your two networks coexist quite happily side by side?
Absolutely, yes. We're doing different things, and so we just get on very, very well. It's just a great exchange. It fills the gaps, and we have a good relationship.
Yeah, we support each other in initiatives we think are important. In terms of Noeline's organisation's campaign around school buses, we wholly support that, and we'll do whatever we can to put our weight in behind it as well.
We'll talk more about that after the break. Coming up, safety on the school bus run. Every community, town and country has its idiot speeding drivers. Now there are calls for police nationwide to enforce a 20 km/h speed limit past school buses stopped to let children on or off, and with flashing signs to ram home the point. What price a child's life? That's after the break. Welcome back to Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Furrow. I'm Karen McCarthy, and with me this week, Noeline Holt and Sarah Speight. This push for better enforcement of the 20 km/h limit then when passing a school bus, town or country, this is in everybody's interests. Why is Rural Women New Zealand on the warpath over this?
We've been on the warpath about 4 or 5 years now, and it came about from Jackie Edkins, our communications officer, who witnessed a child being hit by a bus, who was then in a vegetative state till he was about 19 years old. And it really affected her, and she said, look, we've got to do something about this. And with 23 children having died in the last 23 years, a child a year, that's too many children. Even one child is one too many. And so we've worked on this campaign because we realised the problem was huge in the rural areas, because often the high-speed areas, and people just don't know that it's 20 k's past a stopped school bus. They just don't know because
Or
there's
even
no
if
signage.
they do, I guess it's universally ignored, isn't it?
It's universally ignored. It really is quite alarming. We had a program we heard about the police were running in the southern districts, and it was very effective, and we have approached the police, and I've been given advice who to talk to about that, about doing it nationwide.
What did they do? What did Southern Districts Police do?
Well, my understanding is that they were just keeping an eye on the buses there and just nabbing people who were going past the buses at more than 20 k's. And they really got quite a few. There was one person went by at about 84 kilometres per hour towing a trailer. So I think he was in big trouble.
As you say, that is the law. That is the road rules are 20k, but most people would have no idea. There's no signage to tell them that. They have pictures of kids, you know, watch this child, watch out for this child, but there's nothing. What's been great though down there too is that they've been putting signage up on rural bus stops, and that does actually have an effect, and that was proven with the traffic engineering research report. They did a bit of research around that, in fact quite a bit of research, and it did show that it modifies driver behaviour. So we're really keen, and when they're flashing signs there you can see them for some distance, and we were thrilled last year when the Minister announced that flashing lights would be allowed to be turned on 20 seconds before the bus stopped and 20 seconds afterwards before they could be switched off. However, the 20k still applies only when the bus is stopped, which seemed odd to us. Sarah, in your travels around the country, you must have hopefully not seen an accident, but seen kids on and off the school buses every day.
Oh, I've certainly seen a number of close calls, and even just last Thursday as I was driving to work, I slowed down for a school bus and some idiot passed me, doing well over 100 k's, giving me the finger to say, what the heck are you slowing down for? So, I mean, yeah, there is a real need, I think, to grow people's awareness in this area, and to, as you say, not only to actually enforce it. It's probably you need the carrot and the stick. Yeah, people need to understand why it's important, because the lives of all of our children are valuable. But we also need a stick to say, if you do break the law, there is a consequence.
I think the Southern Districts Police Initiative, they were actually tailing the school buses in the first couple of weeks of term. They were actually driving along with the buses and as you say, clocking motorists who weren't observing the law.
Exactly, which astounded me, because there they are with a police car in the vicinity, and they were still doing it because they were just totally oblivious. That really is a rule that's not very well adhered to. And, you know, from our perspective, we think, you know, engineering and education before enforcement. We don't want people getting tickets all over the place or losing their licences. We'd rather they just acknowledge the law in the first place. Wouldn't that be better?
Your campaign, your lobbying, is it falling on deaf ears? I mean, how are you going? I guess it's an issue, as is everything, of cost. To put signs, flashing signs as you want on the school buses, front and back, it's not going to come cheap, is it?
Well, it's interesting actually, because we've got people in our community, our members, are actually raising money and willing to pay. They want these signage on school buses there. Some bus companies like Tom Petrusevich in the far north there, he's put signs on his buses. So there is this willingness by just not only bus companies but also communities to help get this to happen. But of course the school bus contracts there are 12 years. You know, the Ministry of Education are not going to insist upon that as a safety measure until their contracts are up. Otherwise they would have to pay if they alter the contract. So it's just that kind of waiting game in a way in those terms there. We've spoken with the NZTA. Sometimes it feels a bit frustrating there, and we're just wondering what to do next. Probably get the Minister back involved. We're getting support from extraordinary avenues. For example, the Forest Truckers Association, they're wanting to be involved. The Women's RSA are wanting to be involved. We have a Plunket involved. It's quite broad, the number of people or groups that want to be involved and really passionate about keeping our children safe, so it's great.
Because there was that terrible accident, I think, last year when a school bus was rear-ended.
Yes.
I think, was it by a logging truck?
Well, it was a truck. I don't know if it was a logging truck. It was a logging truck. Yes, it was a truck, and that was pretty rough actually, because all those kids ended up all over the place and quite badly hurt. That's the last thing you want to have happening when your kid's trying to get home from school. But yeah, it goes on all the time. And speed is the factor, because you see at 20 k's your child has a chance of survival, and there's also a chance for the driver to take evasive action. But at 70 k's and 80 k's your child has a 90-something% chance of dying. So that's why it's that speed. It's not just sort of something plucked out of the air. It really is a reason behind it, in fact, of keeping the child alive and minimising injury.
Just before we go to the break, Sarah, I wanted to ask you, you came to the role at Dairy Women's Network last year after a couple of years at Mentha. Is that right?
That is right.
It is right. Receivers of the Crayford Farms, I understand you're operations manager, helping manage the receivership. We've been talking about this on the program the last 3 or 4 weeks. I'm just really interested to hear your take on events of the last few weeks.
Oh, it's like a never-ending version of Shortland Street, isn't it? It just, the playing field keeps changing, I guess, and I'm, like everyone else, I'm just watching with interest.
Did you have dealings yourself with Alan Crayford?
Yes, I did. Yes, with the whole family at various points.
Are you surprised things are dragging on this long?
Oh, it was never going to be straightforward, and yeah, I'm like everyone else. I think most New Zealand now has an appetite just to get it resolved and move on to issues that are far more important both to the dairy industry and to the country in general.
Has it become a bit of a distraction, you think? As I say, you'd imagine it would have been resolved long before this, and it's turned into a real political hot potato. Yeah,
it has. I don't think it's particularly good for the dairy industry as an issue. I'd far rather we're focusing on important issues and issues where farmers are behaving in a positive way. You've got Farm Environment Awards coming up, those kind of things. I'd far rather see a whole lot of coverage about that, but unfortunately the media doesn't operate that way, does it?
Do you have any views you can share with us yourself on foreign ownership of farmland?
I think each case has got to be dealt with as the law stands, and let the right people in the right places make those decisions.
We'll all watch and wait, as we have been for a long while. Thanks, ladies. After the break, we ask our guests what's got them fired up. Will it be a rant or a rave? More Straight Talk coming up. Welcome back to Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Furrow. Time to find out now what's pushing our guests' buttons this week. Will it be a rant or a rave? Noeline.
Yes.
I think this is shameless plug time, isn't it?
Is it?
You've come prepared with a few things.
Well, first of all, I'd like to promote our latest cookbook, A Good Harvest, due out on the 2nd of March. And it's absolutely jam-packed with recipes from the gardens of rural women New Zealand. And it not only tells you about the fruit and vegetables, but it tells you how to do these things like preserves and pickles and things like that. They're all the tricks from our members of Rural Women New Zealand.
Now this comes out on the heels of A Good Spread, I know, which was the first publication by Rural Women.
That's right, that was very successful, made it in the top 27 of the 27th, I think it was, bestseller with Random House, and also got up there in the top 100 of the listener bestsellers in New Zealand.
And this is women's own recipes from family kitchens,
totally
handed down through the generations.
Totally. Yes, or some recent recipes there that they've started using, and they've been very, very popular.
This fundraising side of Rural Women, is that a major part of what you do?
Oh yes, it is there, because a big part of our business is charitable, and we give a lot of charitable work both nationally and in the regions. And another example of that was our Getting Plastered for Breast Cancer, where women got to do plaster casts of their breasts. They decorated them. We had Jackie Blue, who was in Parliament at the time there, and a couple of other MPs do their breasts, and their little plastered breasts went around the place as well. And that was very successful. We raised $16,000 for breast cancer research, and there's a dedicated researcher at the moment there looking at the difference between rural and urban decisions made about breast cancer health.
Now Sarah, I know you wanted to say something about this issue. It's a big deal, health and well-being of women, of everybody on the farm.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's another key platform of ours, along with leadership, is health and well-being. In terms of, it's very similar to Rural Women, looking at resilient communities. And we've just signed an agreement with Breast Cancer Research Trust so that our members can donate the first kilo of milk solids every month to the Breast Cancer Research Trust to help them find a cure for breast cancer, which we're really excited about.
It's not all about fundraising and you said advocacy. I mean, both of you, your networks are there to lobby and to improve the lot of women in the industry in New Zealand.
For us, it's about families and it's access and equity. And sometimes their good policy goes bad because it can't be implemented in a rural setting, because there's just not the resources in the rural environment for those policies to be properly implemented. And one of the areas that we're really interested in is family violence and the animal welfare connection. And it's just so underreported in rural areas because of the nature of the communities. They often know each other or they're related to each other, so it tends to go to ground. And that's not unique in New Zealand, it's internationally known. There's some very good research overseas at the moment about that, and also Ros Houghton has done a body of research there around that in the floods in 2004. And as a result of any kind of adverse event, family violence in rural areas spikes. And for example, it went up in the September earthquake down Canterbury Way, where it affected more rural communities than Christchurch at the time. Family violence spiked to 58%. So it's quite high and quite worrying, actually.
And I guess the thing out in the country is you know, you're not just a phone call or down the road from Women's Refuge or something. If something like that happens, you're much more on your own, aren't you?
In an ad hoc way, we've got safe houses operating, but when I say ad hoc, they're working in a vacuum, and we've submitted on the green paper on vulnerable children and talking, and we make reference to safe houses and the need for them and the need for the resourcing for them as well. And there's a risk involved for the people who run those safe houses as well, because once again, knowing everybody. And in farming areas too, they have firearms, so it's quite, and the difficulty with cell phones, not being able to get contact on a cell phone. So there's a combination of factors there that just makes it much more difficult in a rural area there to get help.
And Sarah, I know you say that the role of women is crucial in a rural setting, that they're the glue that holds sometimes the business and the family together.
Absolutely. I mean, women have a very, very important role. Not only are they growing the next generation of young farmers, but they're also business partners in their own business, trustees of the family trust, for example. Often have very good links into the community and do a lot of voluntary work. Most of our volunteers in rural communities are women, apart from the rural fire brigades, of course, which is still very much male bastion.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, very, very important. So I mean, part of our role is to empower these women to understand that these roles they have are leadership roles, and to support them to get some training and development to help them along their leadership journey, no matter which way that goes, whether it's just within the family or only at community level, or whether they wish to step up and be more involved in their industry. Do
you think their efforts are often overlooked, or they overlook their efforts themselves, or underestimate what contribution and accomplishments they make?
I think women are very good at saying, I'm just. I hear it all the time. I'm just a farmer's wife. I'm just a mother. I just rear the calves. I just do the books. Very, very good at taking a subservient role to the man in the business. So the men tend to be the fronts people. Whereas once you get in behind the scenes, it's quite often that women have a very important role in decision making, either as a sounding board or as the person that writes the cheque at the end of the day, so has the final say, but often are making the large decisions in consultation with their business partners.
I was going to say, where are the men in all these issues?
The men are there, but often they do rely on women to bounce ideas off, to be able to ensure that the decisions they're making are the right ones for the family, for the business.
That's one of the issues around family violence, is that women will stay in a bad relationship because of their responsibilities in caring for animals. And that's what will keep women in a bad relationship, because animals will be used to get at a woman in terms of in a family violence situation. So we have those issues as well,
and
compounded.
Through both your networks, women need to know, that they're not alone, that there's support and there's help out there, no matter what, financial, practical, emotional.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's why networks are so important, I think, particularly for women who need opportunities to connect. And that's why things like the Rural Broadband Initiative are so important, because women are then able to connect beyond just the neighbour or the family down the road, but are able to connect with like-minded women all over the country.
And that was part of our in our submission to on vulnerable children, was we pointed out that the benefits of broadband for people there can get advice and in a very in a way there that they can feel secure about doing it.
That's it for Straight Talk this week, brought to you by Straight Furrow. Thanks very much to Sarah Speight and Noeline Holt for being with us in the studio, and to you at home for watching. Be sure to check out our website for more great programs and all the latest rural news. I'm Karen McCarthy. See you next week for more Straight Talk.